Brandy and I are mad. We are mad that it is our fault that people are leaving the church and we're not being allowed to sit down and talk about it.
Faith can feel like hearts and butterflies until someone lights a match and burns it all to the ground. Welcome to the Burning Butterflies podcast.
The sad thing is that there's abuse of every kind within the church. But the spiritual abuse is the stuff that just
What's a place there shouldn't be abuse? Like, there just shouldn't be abuse in a place that claims to.
Well, it ruins your soul. If you're new here, we suggest listening to our prologue episode first. This is the story of two women's journey through toxic church culture and spiritual abuse, all while finding healing in the end.
Sometimes it's just the facts, and if you get offended by it, that's a you issue. And if we can't be mature enough to have these conversations, even if some of the topics are difficult, then shame on us.
We cannot sit down and have a conversation. So we are upset. And the first thing we do is we call our husbands, because I wasn't very close with the beer ministry wife at all. But my husband was close with him. And so I would hope that if there was beef, someone would say something. And so if Tom isn't going to be the go-between, and we're not going to follow biblical, practices where we have to sit down with, this is serious. They're leaving the church. And let's just take a minute and I know for some people this seems like, okay, so they are leaving the church. What's the big deal? They were leaving their family. They were leaving the only place that was doing it right. And it was my fault that they were leaving.
And leaving after lots of years.
Yeah, it's not like they were here for a year.
We tried it out. Yeah, we were there for a year, and then it wasn't our cup of tea, so we went on somewhere else. This is lifelong journeys and friendships and people who have been invested for years and years.
Yeah.
And then the thing that's gonna, the straw that breaks the camel's back for them is you. That's.
And we're not allowed to
see why.
talk about it. We can't sit down with the leadership of the church and have a conversation about it. We're being told no.
Right. Which, like you said, is so weird because they push that biblical Matthew 18, go to the person and take the speck the log out of your eye before you take the speck out of your brother's eye. And if that doesn't work, then you get another person involved and you sit down and you have to reconcile. Tom would even preach, if you left another church, you had to go back and reconcile with those people before you could be free to be a part of Come As You Are. But the fact that in these situations, no reconciliation. We're not doing anything. They left. It's your fault.
Yeah.
Weird.
And so Justin calls up the beer ministry guy and he's basically dude, what the hell? What? This is what Tom just told our wives. What is going on? Can we sit down? And the beer ministry guy is it's not you. It's not her. It is 100% Tom. And he lays out all of his things that he laid out to Tom before that Sunday sermon when Tom hit his knees on stage. Was, you're not accountable to anyone. You don't have a mentor. There's no accountability for how you spend the money. We suspect that you are spending the money incorrectly. We feel like you ran off Young Gun. Here's a list of, a handful of people who have left because you have been hateful and hurtful to them. And so how are you qualified to be a leader? And, you know, it always I always wondered why they didn't push for a vote and why they just
Right.
left. And that's not something that, like, at this point, like, I could go back and, like, ask the beer ministry couple, like, what were you thinking then? Because I think there was some truth to, like, it was me for the wife. I was part of the reason why they were leaving for the wife. Like, the wife did not like me. We were never really close friends, but even after the fact, like, I mean, we're 4 years removed, and this woman still, like, despises me. Like, she gives me the side eye, she will
Right. But
avoid
but if
me,
you're
like,
but if you're listening, feel free to
yeah, like, yeah, I guess, like, "Hey, if that's you, please call me because, like, I I wanna know.
we wanna know.
I wanna know," and, like, I never like, in the moment, yes, in the moment when all of this was happening way back in 2020, I was mad. I was mad at these people. I thought they were wrong. I thought they were leaving our family, all of the BS crap, right? Like, I fully believed it.
And then you don't know who to believe,
Yeah.
right?
Well, because it's
Because
like
you've got 2 people
and
telling you 2 different stories, like
and I I trusted I trusted Tom so much, like, I mean, honestly, who am I gonna believe? Am I gonna believe the pastor or the people who are not my friends? Like, I mean,
right, who it makes sense, you know?
yeah,
Yeah. But it's like the same place that I was at where I'm like, you realize that the people you were going to for
yeah,
help, the people that you trusted, really the ones that were doing the damage and harming you, and were the ones who were not to be trusted.
yeah. So, the beer ministry guy pretty much told Justin, like, "Dude, it's not you, so tell your wife, like, tell Brandy, tell Amanda, but it's not you," right? Then, the Griswolds talk to Brandy, and the Griswolds tell this story of how, like, he was called to be a pastor. He felt this calling on his life. And so Clark Griswold goes to Tom and he's like, "Hey, I feel this calling. I feel like this is something God wants me to do. I feel like he's equipping me for it. Like, will you help me? Will you mentor me? Will you like what are the next steps?" And this is during that time when remember I said, like, he got to lead Master Life, and he got to lead some, like, midweek Bible studies and stuff like that, and so Tom was letting him become a leader in a very, like, confined way. I guess at the time, I always looked at it like, well, Young Gun saw him as a leader, and so Tom's just trying to, like, let whoever Young Gun was working with, let them prove themselves, right? And, no one who Young Gun ever worked with to be a leader ever panned out for anything. And, that's something we're gonna kinda talk about over on our Patreon is, like, all of these people who were allowed to do stuff or lead stuff, whether it's by Young Gun or Tom or Charlotte, like, what was the reasoning behind that, right? But so Griswold is allowed to do these things, but I guess he at some point in time, he has this conversation with Tom before the Thanksgiving dinner, before the plate fiasco, all of that. He has this conversation with Tom like, "Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to preach a sermon. Like just kind of a give me a shot, right? Like give me a chance." And he and his wife tell Brandy, this is not a conversation I heard, so this is secondhand information. They told Brandy, Brandy told me, but um, it was Tom said two things to him. One, um, Clark Griswold had been in an accident and he had to have one of his legs amputated. And so Tom told him no one is going to take a one-legged pastor seriously. And when I heard that, I was like, "There's no way Tom said that." Like, in the moment, I was like, "Tom would never say that to someone." Um, and then I guess the
Right.
other thing that was said was that Charlotte didn't like H Helen Griswold, and if Charlotte didn't
Yeah.
like you, then you will never be a leader in this church, and so because Charlotte didn't like the Griswolds, that was like, I don't know where that is says it in the Bible
Well
as a disqualifying factor for a pastor. The pastor's wife doesn't like you, so you're disqualified?
well, that doesn't surprise me much because it's not like Tom ever really had anything nice to say about, Griswold, and I mean, like, nothing, like, that bad, but I mean, it was obvious that Tom didn't like him either, and
Yeah.
I feel like in that moment, like, it also doesn't surprise me that Tom got caught, like, with no filter for a moment, like, and probably trying to be funny, and yeah, that landed really wrong, For as much as Charlotte didn't like Helen Griswold, I don't think either of them liked them at all. That was my impression
No.
anyway.
No, and like I said, like, in the moment, I was like, "Oh, Tom would never say that," but
Yeah.
honestly, like, now hindsight 2020, like, I think what you're saying is there's truth there, and I've also seen Tom, like, if he wants to shut someone down, he will be cruel, and he'll be cruel enough so that it's almost like he wants to humiliate you so you will never come to him again with the
Right.
same problem or the same question. And so I I think there's a little bit of both of those things going on with it, but we are like, "Hey, I don't" like, Brandy and I are like, "We wanna talk through this," or whatever, and the Griswolds and I never had any beef, like, even when they left, they had named, their little mini summer park event something, and I gave them all of, like, the graphics and all of that I had made for it, and I was like, "This is yours. Like, it doesn't belong to Come As You Are. You take it with you." That was something that Tom wasn't very happy with because when they left, he's like, "Well, at least next year we could do, like, these little mini park events," and I was like, "Well, I told them that they could keep the name of what they named that ministry." And he's like, "Well, why would you do that?" And I was like, "Well, because, like, we did it 1 year,
Yeah,
and
there's
it's not like it's the big summer park event that, like, transcended them, and it was, like, for years and years before they even came to the church, like, it was 1 year, and it was all them, so I felt like it was appropriate that they take that name with them, and, I ultimately am happy that I did that because he is now a pastor, and that is the name of their church, is that ministry name, but it just I was so confused as to why would Tom and Charlotte be okay with people leaving the church because of me? And I didn't have a prideful heart. I didn't have a, malice or anything like that. Like, I truly was remorseful and repentant and wanted to know why this was. And I wanted to sit down and I wanted to, talk it out and do things the way that scripture tells us we're supposed to do it. And I was being told no. And it just didn't sit well with me. And this is I mean, for a while, it's like I have been Tom's little person in the office and Brandy was Charlotte's, right? But now it's, like, even deeper. Like, Charlotte is confiding in Brandy now. Tom has been confiding in me, but now, like, he's not I would say up to this point, I've had a relationship with Tom, the like, the bad kid in the family has a relationship with their dad. Like, you know your dad loves you, but everything is you're getting yelled at and, "You did a good job at this, but, next time you might change this," and now all of a sudden it changed, and it was like the relationship with a dad and a daughter, like those stereotypical, like, daddy's little princess. Like, he was calling me sweetie, like, he would call me and ask me something, and he's like, "Hey, sweetie, it's Tom." Instead of being like, "Hey, it's Tom. I need da 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 da." Like, he was his, demeanor towards me changed so drastically, and it in some ways, it was off-putting, but in other ways, it was like it was fulfilling a part of, like, a father-daughter relationship that I never got with my dad, and so, as, like, strange and, like, just kind of, like, awkward as it was, I also had this, like it felt comforting. Like, does that even make sense? Like,
Yeah.
it just seems so, like, weird to me that, like, I would feel that way, but ultimately, it leads to, um we had been asking for a while to redecorate the stage, right? Um, Beth Moore had redecorated the stage. She had done a phenomenal job, a beautiful job. Um, but it was kinda time to just kind of, refresh things and one of the biggest complaints was being able to access the baptismal pool very easily because we had these big, heavy, like, stage curtains, and we had to, like, pull them to the side, and we could never get them symmetrical, so it looked, like, awkward behind everyone the whole time, and we had to leave them open. So, through worship, through Tom preaching, all of that, we just had this big hole, and over the years, I had asked, like, "Can we put different lighting back there? Can I maybe, like, paint a mural back behind the opening or something like that?" I was like, "No, it's fine, it's fine." And so, it was just kind of like this big dark hole, and then we'd flip on one light, and we'd do a couple baptisms, and we'd turn the light off, and so there's this big dark hole, right? So, I had been asking for a while to redo the stage, and I had gotten emphatic no's, "Absolutely not. It's fine the way it is," all of that. But now all of a sudden, I'm his sweetie, and he tells me I can redo the stage. But FYI, you have to pay for everything yourself. So, whatever you're going to do to redecorate the stage, that's on you. That is your you have to build your team, you have to find your budget, that it's all you.
That's come as you are way.
Yes.
If you want
Um,
something done, pay for it yourself.
and honestly, like, this is so stupid, but I didn't care that this was a huge bomb dropped on me, that I had to be I had to find all the people, I had to find the money, I had to, do all the things. I didn't care about that because I was getting to do it, and I this is what I'd wanted for a long time, and so I was excited, and so he tells me I can redecorate the stage within just a couple days of, like, "Everyone's leaving the church because of you. It's your fault." Well, sweetie, why don't you redo this? I've been thinking,
I've been thinking, yeah.
and I really, I really do think the stage could be freshened up a bit. And so I am like, I'm excited, but yet, I mean, there's still this fallout from people leaving. Like, everyone decides this whole group decides they're going to leave the church. And then that same week, Corey and Topanga asked Justin and I to go out to dinner. And we have dinner with them. And, you know, they approach us and they're like, hey, we really like it hurts our heart. People are leaving. This is what they're saying about Tom. We've been talking to Young Gun and, you guys, we were very similar with each other. Like, we were young couples, we got married young, we had kids young, we were serving in ministries, we were always showing up to everything, even though we were serving in different ministries and we were kinda on, like, different paths within the church, we were very similarly matched. And so they're like, "You're kinda close to us, like, I mean, how do you feel?" Like, and being my good little Kool-Aid drinking self, I defended Tom, and I was like, "Ultimately, does he have his flaws? Yes, but he's our leader. He's our pastor." And, Justin kind of agreed and felt the same way, and they were like, "Yeah, yeah." And so I felt like that dinner, we kind of, like, almost gaslit them into being like, "Yeah, you're right. He is our leader." But things were never the same with them. Ever after that. Like, they kept Tom at a arm's length with everything, and they stepped down. I mean, they had already stepped down from the worship team, but they stepped down from everything that they were doing. They weren't doing Bible studies anymore. At Come As You Are, they started doing Bible studies with another church. Um, they really started to distance themselves from the church, and at one point, Charlotte tells me, "Well, with everyone leaving and with everything you told us that New Year's Eve, Tom doesn't care who leaves. But there's he know he will call it quits and he will know he's wrong if you and Justin and Corey and Topanga leave the church because you guys are the next generation of this church. So if you feel like you have to leave the church, Tom has said that's his sign that he needs to retire and just step away." And,
Well, that's funny because
you
that
know,
didn't
I
happen.
I know, right? Like, "Huh, I wonder
Sorry,
what
because
happened to
what?
that feeling."
All those people have left the church now.
But, I still had all this heaviness over me, but I really didn't care. It didn't bother me as much as it had in the past with other heavy things because I was getting to redo the stage. And I know that sounds like
Yeah.
super selfish and like kind of self-centered of me, but I
Right,
was
but it's
just
a
so excited
distraction.
to be able to get to do it. Yeah.
Right, like, they just dropped this bomb on you, and then in order to get you right back to doing what you need to be doing, here's that thing you wanted to do. Here's a distraction for you. Pour all of your time, energy, and money into this thing so that you forget all about this other thing.
Yeah. And, as selfish as I was in my motives, like I tried to build a team. I involved the whole worship team. I was constantly like, "Hey, if I put this here, what will this light do? Like, I don't want to mess this up for you know, the you guys." Um I had to and I mean, I don't want I don't wanna paint Tom in this different light, like, he was still very hyper controlling over it. Like, I had to draw out a plan of exactly what we wanted to do. I had to, like I had to prove, like, I had a team, I had to prove I had a budget, all of the things, right? The only things that he told me was if we needed to put the stage back, I wasn't allowed to cut the curtains because if we had to put the stage back, we had to be able to put the curtains back how they were. And I was not allowed to make it look like a farm. And he's like, "I know that's your style," because at that time my home was I had a very rustic style. And so he didn't want it to look like we were having church in a barn because I cannot take my personal style and put it on the whole church. I'm not sure why, you know, our church was allowed to look like the inside of Charlotte's house and the inside of, you know, it was like Charlotte and one other lady who, like, were a part of the decor team when we built the church, and all of the paint colors it looked like the inside of their house, like, all of our office decorations came from Charlotte's house. She gave us her old decorations so she could get new ones. So, that was fine for them, but for me, because my vibe and my style was not 1999 Southern Baptist. It was more rustic, I was told absolutely not. So those were my 2 things I was told. Um, so I built my team. I I referred to people, um, and the crazy thing is Brandy and I really went full gung ho with this. And I remember you being there. Like, I know you were there because I remember having conversations with you, but, like, if you were to have asked me, like, "Well, is Melissa on your team?" I'd be like, "Well, no." But, like, I consult with her for the worship team. But, like, you were
But yeah,
there for everything.
Brandy was like dragging me to everything at this point because I was like getting ready to leave the restaurant. I really felt like, looking back, like I was being like baited, like for that, like I think I've mentioned it before, just like being promised like leadership roles within like women's ministry and things like that. And Brandy and I, had continued to, build our friendship since the play. And she was like my biggest cheerleader of like, oh, well, Melissa needs to do this and Melissa this, Melissa that, right? So that she was like dragging me along to anything and everything that I could possibly be a part of. And I was like willingly coming along because I'm planning on abandoning my career and full-time, church ministry life. So yeah, but like when we were planning this, and every time you're like, oh yeah, and then this, and I'm like, I know I was there. And you're like, but this, and I'm like, I was there. Yeah, I was sitting in the
Yeah.
chairs and I overheard that entire conversation. So
Well, and, like,
funny.
I remember, like, I vividly remember being on a ladder, holding something up, and looking at you sitting in the chairs and being like, "Does that look right?"
Yeah.
Like, and so you were there for the whole thing, and it's kind of wild because, like, Brandy and I are friends, you and Brandy are friends, and Brandy is actively trying to get us to do ministry stuff together,
Right.
and it's like we're working together, but it's like it's not
But not directly. It's
in the
all
normal way. Yeah.
indirectly through brain.
Yeah. So, I decide that the best way, because I looked at a million different things. I sat down with Tom and we looked at live streams of other churches, right? And not that we wanted to copy what they were doing, but, like, just looking at, like, what is, hip and cool in the in the church stage decoration world in 2020. And so keep in mind, almost all stages are like a theater stage. They're black, matte wood or, something of the sort floors so that all of your cords and everything from all of your worship equipment and microphones and lighting and all of that blend in with it. And a lot of stages are built where there's like a subfloor underneath where you run a bunch of your cords through, like little channels and you can lift the floor up and get down underneath there. But ours wasn't like that. Ours was legit a like flat stage with tan carpet. So the fact that I told Tom that the stage looked cluttered with all of the chords and all of the instruments and everything, that made him mad because it was like a personal attack on him. That how dare I say that his stage and his worship team were not amazing. So I worked with you, I worked with Schroeder, and, we tried to do some chord management stuff and kind of move some stuff around. Um, but we took and we built out the whole background, kind of out to the sides. We built it all out. And then we looked at all these different things, shutter doors and curtains and all of this. And we felt like the best thing to do that was the most efficient way to be able to open and close the door to see the baptisms was a barn door. And I had to essentially what I had to do because Tom was automatically against it. He hated the idea of a barn door, automatically against it, did not want it. And ultimately, I had to be like, I'm not leaving it as a barn door. It will be very, like, I don't even want to say like farmhouse chic. Like, because yes, it was like wood paneling that we put on everything, but it was almost like a gray black wood paneling. And it looked, I mean, this is the height of like Chip and Joanna Gaines and shows like that, right? So this was very hip for what was in at the time. Um, but it was not like it wasn't cowboy church rustic. It was like high end country, kind of. Does that make sense?
No, yeah. You
So,
described that perfectly, especially knowing how this all went down and like realizing that as soon as you said barn door, which you meant style of like how door will open, like, what's in
yes, a
everybody's houses
sliding,
in
yes.
2020, everybody starts putting these sliding barn doors in. And like, but as soon as you said barn door, it was like, nope, we're not doing it. That we're not, nope, not gonna happen. Like the work you had to do to convince them, like, no, I meant like the door's gonna move like a barn door, but the style's not gonna be. I promise you, like I promise you, if you hate it after a month, we'll tear it all down. Right?
Yeah, and that's
Like,
what I had to promise him, like, "I will put everything back exactly how Beth Moore had it if you don't like it."
yeah,
And ultimately what I had to do because to buy a barn door, like you said, everyone's putting them in their houses, so, like, just to go to, like, Home Depot and buy one of these things, the size that we needed it I mean, I bet this opening is all of, like, 8 feet wide by 10 feet tall,
right.
probably.
It's huge. Yeah, maybe even bigger than that.
Yeah, and so I would have had to have it kind of custom made, which is expensive. So I start looking on places like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and eBay and all of these places, and a Brandy finds a barn door. And it is like, we joked, like, no, seriously, Tom, Jesus wants us to have this barn door because it is almost the exact measurements. It was like a eighth of an inch off the exact measurements we needed it to be.
Yeah.
And we're like, "This is the this is what we need." So we go get it. Um, we bought it secondhand off of someone, and then they found out we were a church, so they even gave us a discount for it. But we get this thing, we bring it in, and it is legit a barn door. Like, it looks like I went out to my grandpa's barn and pulled this thing off and hauled it into the church.
Yeah.
And Tom was so mad, and I had to tell him, "I'm gonna put stuff on it. I need you to just trust me. Just trust my vision. I know you don't see it, but I see it in my head. So just trust me, and this is what we're gonna do. When we unveil this on Sunday, I want you to give it 1 month. And if after a month, the majority consensus from the church body is that everyone hates it, I will put it all back." Exactly like Beth Moore had it. And so he reluctantly agreed. And again, he's still in this place where he's like, "Okay, sweetie, if that's really what you think, I'm gonna have to trust you. I don't see it, but I'll trust you." And it's just talking to me in ways he's never talked to me before. And so we make this stage, we put everything up, and if I do say so myself, it turned out fairly well. Um, there were some things because I had to wait for, like, guys to come and help us do stuff, and the interest from the men in the church, like, they came and helped for a weekend, but that's about it.
Oh,
And
another
so
pro
yes.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, like, the stage is still, like, you know, 3/4 of the way done. And it still looks the same way it did when I did it. Um, but it's just not finished because and it's funny because all those men that were helping me are still there. They knew the plan. We had all the materials. I was, like, posting behind the scenes photos because I was trying to get, like, people hyped up so that they would be excited about it, so then they'd be less likely to complain about it. And, like, there's a picture, I really wanna try to find it, of we go to get these, like, big wood paneling things, right, from Home Depot, and it's me and Brandy, and so I show up, we are going to Home Depot, we are doing manual labor, we are going to bring these back to the church, we're doing work. So I show up in work clothes, like jeans and a ratty t-shirt, and I have my hair thrown up, and I might even have a hat on, and Brandy shows up in, like, her flower top and her white pants and her heels and her jewelry, and we're walking through Home Depot with, like, one of the big carts with all of these pieces of, paneling on it, and, like, looking back, I'm like, "People probably thought we were a lesbian couple because it full on because we were arguing over whether or not this would work, and this isn't the right color, this is the color you wanted, and, all of these things, and I'm like, it really did look like I was the mask in the relationship, and so it was just so funny, but I have a picture posted of, like, exciting things happening, and we were so proud of ourselves that we got these panels, like, loaded into my car, and we were able to do it ourselves, and we didn't need any help, and we were just so excited, but, um, I think, people were no one complained to the point where they hated it. I don't think it was like everyone in the church was like, "Oh, I loved it," but no one was like, "Ew, I hate it," you know? But you were such a big part of that. And I just think it's so funny that we never really realized, like, we really did work together on that project.
Right.
I just
It's just another
I
thing.
viewed it as, like, you were the representative from the worship team that was coming to make sure I didn't, screw up all your stuff on the
But
stage.
that's how conditioned we were to not work together. right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not getting involved. I'm showing up, but I'm just sitting in the background and only like interjecting where like I need to. Like, I'm not hands on. I'm not really participating. But I say, no, you have to be there. Your opinion matters. Like you got to be there. You're a part of this. And then, like, yeah, we're just so conditioned to not work together. Like, at this point, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. One of the things that Tom does throw out there to me when this project is complete is he asked me what men would I call leaders in our church and what he wanted me to list off all the men that helped me. And really, in all reality, it was one guy. It was like one older guy. He was the one who helped me do everything. Um, Barbara Jean's husband, Brock, is supposed to be the head man on this project. He's supposed to be helping me. He showed up once. He showed up the day where we had to like cuz like these heavy theater heavy black curtains were like screwed into the wall with cleats and we had to like unscrew them and because I couldn't cut the curtains, we had to like fold them back on each other and then screw them back onto the wall to like make an opening and he came for that, but he didn't show up for anything else. And so Tom is asking me about these men who showed up, who, and then he would be like, well, what about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? And he would name off all these guys. And I'd be like, no, no. Like, really, it was the old guy. It was the old guy who came and helped do everything. And Brock showed up once. And I thought it was really weird why he kept asking me about the men because this was a project that was 99% done by women.
Burning Butterflies is a listener supported podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing supporters on Patreon.
Follow the link in our show notes to learn how you can become a Patreon supporter too. Supporters get exclusive access to bonus content each month, including outtakes, cut content, and supporter-only episodes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating on your listening platform.
Burning Butterflies is a production of Asha Media. Thank you for listening.